Welcome to Alter Your Algorithm, a podcast where we talk about what we focus on and how we can make sure it's Jesus. I'm Jackson.
Tyler.
Thank you for joining us this week. Tyler, you want to introduce our guests this week?
Yeah, so this week we have none other than my awesome mother-in-law, Donna Pickerill. So we are so excited to have her on this week and talk about all the great things that she's doing with our young ones at church with Kingdom Kids. And, you know, she's a great asset to the church and obviously our family. You want to tell us a little bit about last week's episode before we get into it?
I really enjoy talking to people who work with kids. Last week we got to talk with Vice Killebrew. He works with a program called Meant to Be. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that episode, we'd love for you to give it a listen. But Meant to Be is a program where Vice helps kids become better versions of themselves, and throughout the process, he helps them know Jesus. He's doing a lot of awesome work in this community, very similar to what Donna is doing here at Southside. She's your mother-in-law, but she's my coworker, and I'm very, very grateful for her. She keeps me consistent. I feel like she works as hard as anybody I've ever worked with in regards to this, and it's kind of cool how she got into it. I'm very excited to have Donna on the podcast today.
All right, Donna, you want to start with telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm Donna Pickerill. I'm originally from Todd County, but I've lived here in Hopkinsville since I graduated from college. My husband Bob and I have been married for 40 years. We have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. After I graduated from Austin Peay with my degree in accounting, as I said, I moved to Hopkinsville. Most of that time in accounting was spent working for White Drive Products. That was the last 20 years of my career, and most of that was as controller. I retired at the end of 2019.
We mentioned you now work part-time here at Southside. To go from accounting to ministry is quite a big transition, but how did that happen?
Well, you know the saying, the Lord works in mysterious ways. When I retired at the end of 2019, I was looking forward to so many things that I wasn't able to do when I worked full-time. And one was I wanted to look for ways to serve the Lord. But then COVID hit, and we all were stuck at home doing nothing and miserable for a year. So I spent a lot of time on my back porch, in my porch swing, reading, because I love to read. Reading fiction, nonfiction, books to strengthen my faith, my Bible knowledge. One of my favorite authors is Priscilla Shirer, and she had a book on Elijah. So I ordered it and planned to do a deep dive into Elijah. Well, when I got the book, it was Gideon. So I don't know still if I ordered Gideon or if I got Gideon by mistake, or if somebody had a bigger plan and sent me Gideon on purpose. Because if you know Gideon's story, Gideon was asked by God to do some really hard things. Mm-hmm. And his first response was, me, God, you've got the wrong guy. I'm the least qualified for this. I'm the least ready for this. And he even was so bold to ask God for some signs to prove that I am God and I have picked the right guy and I'm going to be with you. So God asked Gideon to get out of his comfort zone. So a year later, I received a call to take over the children's program here at Southside, and my first response was exactly the same as Gideon's. Me? Are you sure you've got the right person? Are you sure you've got the right phone number? So I did a lot of thought, a lot of praying, and realized that I was at a season in life where I had the time to do this. I had asked for ways to serve, and like Gideon, I needed to get out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So in a previous episode, Tyler mentioned sometimes when opportunities arise, we want to be ready, set, go. That was not where I was with this. I had to be go, set, ready. Mm-hmm. I had to just say, okay, let's give it a whirl. So that's what I did.
It's awesome. And it's been awesome to see how it has changed. I don't know anybody at Southside who is disappointed in the way things have turned out. The Kingdom Kids facility is awesome to go up there and see. I'm jealous of it. And I'll take the youth group over there and we watch movies and basketball games and stuff in the theater room. It really is awesome. I love the story of Gideon and how it is so easy to have that mindset of, God, are you sure you're choosing the right person here? Because I know there's somebody else who can do this better than me.
Right.
And God shows us time and time again in the Bible that it doesn't take this awesome plan to make it work. As a matter of fact, he'll take a plan where you're like, I am 100% sure this is not going to work. And it still does. With Gideon had 300 guys to take down an entire army, and he did it. It's an awesome story, and the lives that you are changing. Southside, we're a congregation of 225 people. We're not out there, just making a huge splash, so we think, but we don't know the impact that we are having, especially with our kids in the community. And I'm seeing a difference in the kids at Southside. And this is just something we've talked about with other guests and stuff. I'm seeing something going on in the community.
Yeah,
and I'm excited about it. And I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad you're a part of it, Donna. It's awesome.
I appreciate you sharing that story about the book. For some reason, that story seems like it's happened before. So I don't know if it was a God thing or ordering the wrong book thing, but it does. God works in mysterious ways. I love Kingdom Kids. It's such a great asset to our church, and it's one of the things that I really think is drawing younger couples with kids. Like it's one of those things that we're like, hey, have you checked it out? What's the heart behind Kingdom Kids?
Well, the heart behind Kingdom Kids, and that's what we call our program for children 2 through 5th grade, is to teach children. It's very simple: the love of the Lord, and to love the Lord, and to follow Jesus. We don't have some big mission statement. It's very simple. As we all know, if we don't teach our children to follow Jesus, the world will teach them not to. So I'd like to share just a couple of verses with you that sort of guide me in this ministry. The first one is Deuteronomy 32:2. And it says, "Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass, like abundant rain on tender plants." And that's how I think about the heart of children. They're still so tender. They haven't been hardened by the world. They're innocent, and it's just so important that we start working with them when they're young. And the other verse is Matthew 18:3, which says, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." And Jesus knew that children are open-minded, they're teachable, they're not prideful, they take God at his words, and we should do the same. I think we tend to overcomplicate it, but children just it's down to being faithful, and it's simple, and it's trusting, and it's humble, and it's just very important that we take advantage of these young, tender years when they are humble and trusting and not jaded by the world.
Absolutely. Going back to that Deuteronomy passage, the visualization of a young plant being watered, it grows so much, so fast.
Yes.
And if we're fertilizing it the correct way and we're giving it the right nutrition, it's going to grow into something beautiful. And so we do have to take advantage of those formative years. There was a video I saw years ago. It was a little kid who knew 7 languages. And it blew my mind that this kid knew 7 languages, but it was because when they were a little kid, their nanny or whatever spoke 2 languages, and so the nanny would talk to them in 2 languages, and their mom or dad knew 2 or 3 languages apiece, and so they were able to soak all of that information in as a child. We need to realize that our kids have the same capability, and when we talk about Jesus, they're gonna hear about Jesus, and they're gonna know what you say about Jesus. And if you're living it out and you're convinced that it's true, they're going to be convinced that it's true. What would you say have been some moments that reminded you why this work matters?
Well, one moment that's so rewarding is when they get it. And you're both educators, and you both know you can stand up in front of a class teaching your heart out, and you're thinking, they're not paying one bit of attention to me. And then at the end of the class, you ask questions, and those little hands are flying up, and they know the answers. They were wiggling, they were talking, but they were absorbing most of that lesson. So that's a rewarding moment for me. And also, as the students get older, when they start asking really deep questions like, are God and Jesus the same person? They're really starting to dig into their faith. And of course, the most rewarding moment, it shows that this work matters, is when a child grows up to choose to follow Jesus and accept Him as their Savior and be baptized. And we've had that happen several times in the last couple of months at Southside. And those are just the very best days. And I know every teacher in that auditorium that at some point along the way taught that child, laid a brick in that foundation, and will continue to, because we just don't want to lead them to baptism and accepting Jesus and then step back.
Right.
That's just step one. And they have so many people that will continue to teach them and build that foundation of faith as they get older.
Yeah, it's one of it's kind of dangerous. It's something we forget about is hey, after we're saved, there's still work to be done. Satan's not done coming after you once you're saved. I think as a kid, that's what I thought. I thought, all right, I'm good now. I did it. Man, was I wrong. And that's one of the things we've also got to teach our kids. Satan's still out there. Beware.
Yeah, you've seen our kids. They know way more Bible knowledge than I ever did at their age, and I think it's because of this program and the people. Like, it takes a village. There's so many people that influence our kids' lives. That's why it's important that we are selective in who we let in, because, like you mentioned, if we're not teaching, then the world's teaching, and there's so many teachers that we don't want involved. If we're looking at the world,
from the perspective of the world, there's so many negative influences out there that, whether we want to admit it or not, they are going to teach our kids, and we have to teach them to discern, which is definitely probably a bigger word that they don't use in Kingdom Kids, but hopefully when they get to the youth group, I can help them do that.
Exactly. We can't cover their eyes and cover their ears. They're out there in the world and they're going to experience it, and we have to give them the tools they need to defend their faith, to make the right choices.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if we're sitting there, and a sheltered life is not the way, because they're going to go out into this world. So they have to know, like, this is wrong and this is right and this is why, so it can't be like, all right, well, let's remove them completely from everything evil, because what are they going to do? They're going to have to stay at their house. And if they're on the internet, they're probably coming in, so you can't in this world. So you have to give them the tools and that they need, and let them. They're going to have to fail some, and you're going to have to, let them grow from those failures and just teach them,
Absolutely. When failure happens, understanding forgiveness, understanding that as a child is huge. Understanding that it's okay to fail and learn from it is huge. And I think we do a good job of doing that.
So what has God taught you about patience, consistency, and calling through this ministry? We know how, being around kids, and so that's patience and consistency is two big things there.
Wednesday nights is a test in patience.
Amen.
Amen. Because children are just different on Sunday morning than Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights, they've been in school all day, they've sat still all day, they've concentrated all day, they're done. So you just have to know that on Wednesday nights, you're going to have more activities and less table time. You just have to accept that. So that's taught. I've learned a lot about patience from Wednesday nights, but I've also learned how to structure the lessons so they work better on Wednesday nights. Consistency, our kids see who show up for them. They can tell in an instant which teacher is excited about being there and which one's really not. And it's just so important that they realize how many people love them and how many people are willing to help build that foundation of faith in their lives. And that's one of the things I love about the new curriculum we use in Kingdom's Kids, is that we don't expect a teacher to teach for 3 months. They teach for 2 weeks. So these children get to see so many more adults in Southside that are committed to them. And also the flip side of that is so many more adults get to know our kids.
Absolutely.
Because 13 weeks is a big commitment. But so many teachers now, when we ask, they're like, oh, I can do 2 weeks. It's just a blessing for the adults to get to know the kids.
Yeah. One of you mentioned this, Matthew chapter 18, we got to become like little kids. It's so easy to forget what it was like to be a kid. And number one way to remember what it was like to be a kid is to hang around kids. It really is a blessing. I know several teachers that love being involved with the Kingdom Kids program. My least favorite thing about Kingdom Kids is that you get all the volunteers and I don't. But I will gladly lose that battle because it's setting a great foundation.
Yeah, research shows too is as those people get plugged in, they're more likely to continue coming to church. So as you're serving and you're meeting people's kids and things of that nature, then it's that they're coming back next Sunday. And sometimes that's how people start coming on Wednesday nights. If they have to, I mean, I hate to say have to, but if they have a commitment, then they're there and they're like, I can do this. And then you start seeing them on Wednesday nights and then definitely Sunday mornings. All right, so we're going to go ahead and connect this to our Alter Your Algorithm, just kind of circle it back. So we have 3 things here that we're going to discuss, and the first one is what we feed grows. We've talked about that often throughout this podcast, and it's one of those things that's very important. Where you're putting your time, where you're investing things, that's what's going to really shape your life.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're 5 or 50, the things that you're putting in is what output you're going to get. So we have Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go. It's not just about age, it's about guidance, and it's that intentional discipleship at every stage. The spiritual algorithm we feed today shapes the faith that we live tomorrow. And Don, I think you had something that you want to add to that.
Yeah, choices we make, our kids are watching and they're listening. I pick up my grandchildren after school 3 days a week. And a few weeks ago, out of the blue, the 6-year-old granddaughter started singing Goodness of God. And then my 9-year-old grandson joined in. And that's not a song we teach in Sunday school. And it wasn't always in tune. They didn't get all the words right. I think they made up a few, but it was absolutely beautiful. And they have heard this song in our worship services and in the car and at home. They go to Alexa and say, Alexa, play Goodness of God. And they're listening. They're watching on TV what we're watching. They're listening to what we're listening to. So we have to constantly be aware of what we're feeding also feeds them.
Absolutely. Think about the opposite of that phrase. What we feed grows. The opposite is what we starve dies, which sounds really scary when we're thinking about children. If we're not feeding them spiritual food, then they are going to be spiritually dead, and that is not good. If we kind of bear with me, but if we kind of phrase that towards sin, if we starve sin, if there's this is a conversation that I've had with several people. If we starved sin, we do not feed it. We've got to fill up on something else. And what is the only other option? Jesus. And when we starve sin, eventually it does die. We forget what it tasted like, and we run away from it and we turn to Jesus. And the only thing we want to listen to is goodness of God, and that is what fills us up. That's absolutely beautiful.
The other thing was they're watching us. They see when we prioritize attending Bible class. They see when we attend and when we prioritize worship service. They see their parents studying their Bibles. They notice when their parents are engaged in worship, whether they're singing or praying, following along with the scriptures, looking up the scriptures that are used in the sermon, taking notes. They're watching. They can tell if their parent is just a body in a pew or if their parent is engaged in worship. So we have to be aware that they're watching us.
And then there's responsibility there when we have to realize that for sure. The second thing that we'd like to connect back to Alter Your Algorithm is that faith starts early, but it's built to last. Lasting faith grows when it's modeled consistently, whether it's for our children, whether it's for our peers or the next generation. I teach at UHA, and I've had an opportunity to be in a classroom with the same kids for an entire year. We're closing in on the end of the school year, and it's been cool to see a kid grow over a year. If I look at their yearbook picture versus now, it has changed a lot. Their physical stature has changed, but I have also seen how their attitudes have changed. I only get to see them for an hour a day, but I'm there once a day. I get to be a part of their life for an hour once a day. That is a lot of influence, and I think I'm having an influence on them, and I hope I am. There's a passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 through 7 that say, "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. I'm going to continue reading. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. That passage comes right after the greatest commandment has ever written, which was love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. And when you write it on your heart and on your forehead and it's on the doorframe of your house and you are living it, your kids are going to remember it. Not just your kids. You may not have kids. I don't have kids. I have 35 students that I'm able to, I try my hardest to live like this. And consistently, if I'm able to do this, I am going to be able to make a difference in their lives. There are going to be times when I fail. Like, consistency sounds hard. Like, it is hard. Going in and day out is hard. But the longer we do it, the more it lasts.
And you touched on consistency there, and it has to be, even if you fail today, pick it right back up tomorrow. Consistency is greater than flashiness.
Absolutely.
And it's more important that we are doing things on a daily basis. We've talked about consistency a lot. People remember the love and presence more than the production. It's a steady, it's a rhythm has kind of come up a few times. Donna mentioned about, praying and things like that, about purpose or what's next. And we just have to pray like it depends on God, but work like it depends on us. And that's what I've always been a hard worker, but I've lacked the praying part. But I've gotten better about including God in everything as much as possible. And that's why that's showing up in the kids' lives. And that's why, whenever we're listening to the radio, it's on the right stations, other than the wrong stations. Working out in the basement, I'm playing Christian music because they're at an age that they need to have the best influence that they can get. And that's why it's important that we show that. And it has to be, they have to see us in the pews. They have to see us doing the right things when other people are not watching. The person that we are, the people that Carrie and I are at home, has to reflect the same person that people see at church.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Am I going to mess up? Absolutely. But I got to be the best I can for them.
Yeah. Consistency, think of it as something that we have to be, and we do, but it is such a God-like characteristic. How many times has God abandoned you? 0 times.
Yeah.
It means he's pretty consistent. And if we're trying to be like Jesus every day, that is something that we have to strive for. And Jesus wasn't flashy. He was, they say he was humble in stature. Like, he was just a regular looking dude who did regular stuff. But because he was the Son of God, he was able to do some awesome, and I say awesome in like the awe-inspiring sense. He was able to do some awesome things. And when we practice consistency, like, we are also able to do some awesome things. When we're able to lead our child to be saved, like, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and we were studying that book in Sunday school class. I'm going blank on the name. Yeah.
The Ruthless Elimination of Hurt.
Yeah. So we were talking about Jesus, and, just if Jesus was living your life, basically what would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do? Got the bracelet on.
Yeah. It's the old phrase, what would Jesus do? But it's like, and I've heard that and I've thought of that, but like, whenever you're thinking like, all right, well, if Jesus was an assistant principal at Christian County Middle School, how would he handle this conversation? And that's the one thing that in the last, I would say, since we've started this podcast, that, I've talked some of these things before, but you mentioned there's an accountability thing, and I'm trying to be better about actually, living that out. And that's one flip that, or in mindset that I've had is, all right, so how would Jesus have this tough conversation? How would Jesus respond to this interruption or whatever it is that comes up, this chaos that just happened or whatever?
Like, the perspective of the situation changes. Like, you I don't know what situations come into your mind, but if something chaotic were happening and Jesus were in it, he would probably be as calm as all get out. I'm thinking of the time he was in a house and the roof started to cave in because somebody was digging a hole through the roof so that they could lower their friend down to be healed. And Jesus was like, get up and walk, bro. You're good. The perspective when we focus on Jesus of situations changes. And our kids see that as well. Because there have been times where I've been in a situation and the normal reaction is to kind of spaz out. But if I'm like, wait a second, what would Jesus do?
Yeah, well,
How would he handle it? They see that. They're like, oh, wow, you handled that in a way that I probably wouldn't have. But it was because we were thinking of Jesus.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in life that we can't control, but how we react to those things, we can, and a lot of it's mindset. And I don't know where I came across it, but came across something where it's like your mindset is either your prison or your passport. So is it gonna isolate you? Is it gonna hold you down, or is it gonna allow you to go places that you never thought you could go? And it's just a shift in your mindset. You can let it be, woe is me, or it can be, all right, I'm gonna shift my mindset, and then it's gonna take me where I need to go.
Absolutely. As we start to wrap up, we would like to give you guys some practical takeaways, ways that we can build with intention. The first thing we would like to leave you with is show up with a purpose. It's not about having all the answers. It is about being intentional with what we do say. When you consistently invest time, attention, and care, you create space for faith to grow. Donna, you had something on this one.
Oh, I had something that a lady said in a Ladies' Day program, and it's probably been 20 years ago, but it has stuck with me. She said, if Satan can't make you bad, he will make you busy. And I think that's no more relevant than today because we are all so busy. But as you said, Jackson, we have to be intentional about our Bible study, about our prayer, about attending worship, attending Bible study. And when I say Bible study, I mean at home or together with other Christians. As we're doing this, we're teaching our children, but we also have to be intentional about teaching them in order to build that foundation of faith and to strengthen their own foundation of faith. I mean, I myself am retired, and there's days at the end of the day I go, I didn't read my Bible today, and I haven't prayed either. It it can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. We just have to be intentional about it.
Yeah, the second one is teach and model truth simply. Donna touched on this, keep it simple, love the Lord. And if we do that on a day-to-day basis and teach that to our kids and live out these big truths and just kind of let your life show basically as much as your words.
Absolutely. Lastly, keep the conversation. Faith isn't a one-time talk or a weekly habit. It's a daily rhythm. It's something that we have to do regularly. Share scripture regularly with your kids, with your coworkers, with your friends. Ask questions, maybe questions that you don't know the answer to. You want to see maybe how would a kid answer this question? You'd be surprised with what they can come up with and reflect often. I think about Nicodemus. He had a conversation with Jesus in John chapter 3, and we don't hear from Nicodemus until the end of the book of John. What conversations went on in between chapter 3 and chapter 20? Like what was Nicodemus thinking? Who was he talking to, and how did he allow Jesus to continue to influence him? It's a conversation that we have to keep having. One, to see a difference in our lives, and also to see a difference in the lives of others.
Yeah, I think just kind of building momentum and, keeping that conversation going. I know like I said, rhythm's coming up a lot lately, and I just there's a flow and things like that. I think if you get in a rhythm with some of this stuff, that's where we start growing in the Lord. All right, you want to challenge the audience, Jackson?
Absolutely. I want you to ask this question to yourself. One, are you helping build a kid's foundation or assuming someone else will? Because someone else will if you don't. Be aware of that. Be the positive person who believes in God and lives that out daily, that is helping secure the foundation for a child. And then also, what's one step you can take to support a kid's faith this week? Maybe it's letting a kid know you're praying for him. Maybe it's going ahead and volunteering for church camp. What is it that you can do to help support a kid's faith?
Well, and there's a lot of things in that you might not have kids, but we've talked about it doesn't have to be Southside. It can be any other church that's here. I guarantee if you showed up and said, "Hey, can I teach some Sunday school to some kids?" They're going to allow you to. We've talked about several organizations in the past, FCA, Men to Be, the Hope House, Joy's Closet. There's so many programs that you can be involved in that you can be involved in kids. And kids, they're not just our next generation. They're they're the future. They're coming up, and you can't wait until it's too late to start sowing those seeds. Otherwise it's going to be too late. This is kingdom's work. It's not flashy, it's eternal. Faith doesn't just happen, it's built. And when we build into children, it's laying that foundation that lasts for life. Kingdom Kids is the foundation for youth group. The youth group is the foundation for young adults, which is kind of where we are right now. And then, these are our future leaders of the church. These are our future politicians, our teachers, our lawyers, doctors, so we have to invest in that.
Yeah. The influence that we have doesn't just stop here. It goes to the rest of the world. I'm going to close with a prayer, and then the episode will be yours. Let's bow. God, we thank you so much for today. Father, I'm thankful for Donna and Tyler and the work that they do for kids in this community. I'm thankful for Hopkinsville and the many programs that are here to serve. Help us to be a positive influence in a kid's life so that they can know Jesus better. Help us to walk firm with you. Help us to be a light so that the young people can see who Jesus is. Father, be with our kids for the future. We are well aware that one day we won't be here, and it'll be their world. Help it to be a world that knows you. Help us to be like Jesus every day. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Thank you for listening to Alter Your Algorithm.